Hi guys, I am Isa, and today we're going to be learning something in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript called responsive form. So before we start, if you didn't know this, well then that when you're working JavaScript, the script source must be at the bottom of your document, because if it's at the top of your document, it's going to load all the scripts and then load all the HTML, and then when the scripts go, they will not know what object to identify, so we'll have to do the HTML first. So anyways, I'm going to start making a div. Well, div means divider if you didn't know. So we're going to add a class. So the reason we're adding a class is because if we only want to style a certain element, because if we do CSS and we make like two H1s and we style it, it's going to style all of the H1s, so we can give one of them a class. If we wanted to style that one specifically, I'm going to do div class form, and then I'm going to do an input. Do input type text. Placeholder equals to first name. So and then we're going to add an ID. The ID is going to be first. And then the second one, I'm going to give it an ID of last. Also, every single ID should be different, or else your JavaScript code may not work. Email, password, and password. Second password for confirm password. So email, address, with the ID of email, and so we're gonna have password, and the ID of password. I'm going to give the ID of password. So then confirm password. An ID of pass2, because as I said, every single ID has to be different. So this one's ID can't be pass, or else the code won't work. Now we have all of these. Now we're going to style it in the CSS. Style classes, write dot. So dot form. I'm going to add a background of light blue. And we're also going to add a H1. I'm going to say fill in the following form. And also a P that's empty. So you know the use of that P later on. But for now, let's just continue the styling. This is not necessary. I'm just gonna start with the body. Change the font. So anyways, we're going to add a padding of 20px. And then border radius. The border radius makes this thing to be more circular. You can see it's more circular. I'm going to do dot form input. I'm going to put this type equals to text. So what this will do is that I'm going to start the inputs that have the type of text. So you can start all of them individually if you wanted to, but I am just going to start all the inputs together. So first I'm going to do border none to completely remove their borders. Then border radius MPX. So I've already explained the border radius before. So padding I'm going to do another 20px. I'm going to do font size. I'm going to do 25px. I'm doing too much. Okay, so now in display block, so the display block is going to make them to be in all on the same, all in different lines. So then I'm going to do margin. We wrote 20px 0 is because we want the top and bottom to be 20px, and the 0 for right and the left. And to do width 100%. It's going to fit to the whole size of the container. You can also go to this form and add a width. I'm going to do 50%. So that's going to mean 50% of your whole website. So now it's fine. We're also going to go to our HTML and add a submit button. So add a button type submit. I'm going to write submit in here. Because we're also going to add an ID to the button so that we can use JavaScript on it. I'll give it an ID of submit. Now we have the submit button, so let's style it. So I'm just going to copy the one from the form input and paste this with form button. I'm going to style it with the same ones. As it out, we are going to remove some things that are kind of unnecessary. We didn't need all of those. So I'm then going to do cursor pointer. So as you see what that does is that before, when we put our mouse on the button, the cursor is just going to be the same. And if I reload it, and the cursor is going to change when we put our mouse on the button. Now we're going to go into our JavaScript. So we're going to make a variable, so we'll use let. First, line by first is first name, so it's equal document got get element by ID. So what this does is that it's going to get the element you're talking about by its ID. So we're going to do first because we gave the first name an ID at first. Right now we're gonna stick with this first name, and we're gonna do the other ones later. Another one which is got submit. So it means the submit button. So document dot get element by ID. Submit. And then we're going to do submit, which means the submit button. Dot add event listener. So it's going to use this if you want something to happen when we do something with the element. So first one, I'm going to write click. So that means when we're going to click the button. We're going to do a function. If we don't know what a function is, we're going to learn more about it later. It's pretty much just like doing some code. Pretty much just like executing some code. So we're gonna add another what, which is what. Error text. Also, we're going to be using this text for errors. Comments dot get element by ID. We need to add an ID to this P. It's going to be error. You need to write that down. Error. So error text dot inner text is equal to complete. Looks like we're going to submit button. We're going to see this text down there that we're going to do it empty in the HTML file. So anyways, so now we're going to do we're going to do first val, which means first name value, equal to first dot value dot trim. So that means the value of this first name, because it has the ID of first, and then its value, that means what you put inside of the input, and dot trim, that means it's going to remove out all the spaces. So we're going to do an alert of first the val, so that you'll see. So write something here and hit submit. We're going to do all of that because it's not really so I have to put the parentheses if you want to. So want to do if first val is equal to, if first val equals to. Also equals means if something is equal to something. That means it's equal to blank text. So that means if you write an empty string, that means if it has no value, I'm going to write error text dot inner text is equal to, so we're going to write first name can't be empty. Now if we write something at the first name and we submit, nothing is really going to happen. But if we leave it empty, it's going to say first name can't be empty. So what we can do is that we can style it. We can also style it so that we'll see it more. So dot form hashtag error, because we use hashtag to style IDs. So we're going to do color red, font size. We could do 30px. Text align center. So now I'm gonna look more about it. So we can also reduce the padding and margin of these inputs, so that we'll be able to see it more. So anyways, I'm going to do else. So else means if that doesn't happen. And there's also else if, which is just another if statement. So else if so we're going to do the last name. Email. Password. Also, if you didn't know, you can name your IDs whatever you want. Then confirm password. So the else if So else if so we want to do else if last val equals to nothing. We can just copy this. Instead write last name can't be empty. So I can copy the whole else if statement and just paste it. So else if email val equals to nothing, I'm just going to do email has to be empty. Else if pass val equals to nothing, do password has to be empty. And else if pass val dot length, and if it's length less than 8, if how many characters it has is less than 8, I'm going to just do password must be up to 8 characters. So else if pass to val, I'm going to do this exclamation mark equals, which means if something doesn't equal something. So pass val, I'm going to do confirm password must be the same as password. So we're going to do the else. That means if it doesn't meet any of those conditions. And when we're doing else, we don't have to pass in a condition. We'll do else. I want to add this new style. I'm just going to copy the rest of the code. So else I'm going to do error text dot class name equal to. When we're doing this, we have to put it in string. So it's correct. And then the error text dot inner text would be successfully completed. Now let's do it. If the first name is empty, it wouldn't say first name can't be empty. If the last name is empty, it's going to say last name can't be empty. The email address is empty, it's going to say email can't be empty. So if the password's empty, it says password can't be empty. The password length is less than 8. This one must be up to 8 characters. So it's 8 characters. And we are confirm password. Let's confirm my password must be the same as the password. I'm just gonna copy and paste. Okay. And then I'm going to say successfully completed. So we can also go to the style.css, go back to the body, and add a background. We chose a background color. And then it's gonna change it. Also, don't forget that if you want a responsive form to work, you need the CSS and JS prop. You need the CSS, JS, and HTML. So this is where I linked the CSS, and this is where I linked the JavaScript or JS. So anyways, that's the end of today's tutorial. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe. So bye.